Hi.
Hello and welcome. Hi, it's Theo from Time of the Sixth Sun, and I am joined by Amara Sumata. We are both in Bali, in one of the Indonesian islands. So here it's early in the morning. But you may be joining us probably in your evening time in the US or a little bit later in Australia. 'Cause Amara, as I told you, we've got this amazing global community and audience that have watched Time of the Sixth Sun, the movie, and the 8-part documentary series. And people are here because I shared about the 8-week course that we have just done together with a load of other participants and the amazing changes that it's had in my life. And at the end of the course, I said to you, would you please potentially come on to share some of the knowledge with our amazing global tribe? So I think the best thing to do, Amara, I'm just going to bring up this slide so we can say, we've called it How to Develop Real Inner Knowing and access your true yes and no through the InnerGuidance system. And it's obviously going to be your information, and I'm going to host it. And this event's going to take place this weekend. It'll either be Friday or Saturday, depending where you are in the world, but we'll explain that as we go through. Amara, let's just start with a really simple question. What do you do and how do you help you?
Okay, beautiful. So a lot of my work that has been developed over this last decade, working with thousands of people, it's been such a blessed journey. I've come to realize the patterns within people, and sort of what helps them succeed and what sabotages them. And a lot of it comes down to this inner conflict that we have within ourselves. We use it in our everyday language all the time. We say, part of me wants to go to the party and part of me wants to stay home. I'm feeling, so we have this sense of feeling torn many times. And if this, if we don't face this, what do I do? Should I or shouldn't I? Can I or can't I? We sort of have this sense of, well, if I do that, I'm going to have to pay the price in this way. But if I do that, it's going to mean this. And so often what we do is we just, avoid it, or, we just don't address it. We don't face it. We don't step in to the learning that is going to come by making a choice. And the more we don't, address things and face things, and we sort of go back and forth, the bigger the problem becomes. We end up feeling really stressed. It's hard on our bodies. It starts to show up, and we have to even start to develop strategies for managing the sense of feeling torn. So, we start to make excuses to ourselves and to other people. We start justifying things, and then our lives, 10 years, 10x that. And your life is not feeling aligned. You're not feeling integral. You're not, you're not feeling, this is the life that I would really like to have. So the InnerGuidance work gives people the power back to talk to themselves, to face themselves, to talk to those torn parts of themselves, and to really kind of get them back in alignment with what it is you really want to accomplish. I mean, we're talking to ourselves anyway.
Yeah, so I guess it's really about our inner beliefs.
Yes.
And what I took away from it is that you have the best times, you have the worst times. We have hopes, we have dreams. But what you really brilliantly showed us was the fact that there are patterns to this, and we are unfortunately creatures of habit. We're creatures of practice, and we can either practice good things or we can practice bad things. And often the internal monologue that's going on, that we all have, that little voice or this nice voice, this one can be a little bit louder sometimes. And it's just how to improve. Sorry for the very loud motorbikes in Bali. And it's just sometimes that little voice that you've got to work with, rather than trying to brush under the carpet, which is, I think, what you're explaining.
Yeah. It's good to work on this before that under the carpet becomes this big mountain that's sort of looming over you in your life. And so I like to, I ask myself a question: what's the fastest way that we can get towards self-understanding, self-realization, and how far you can take that? And that's about understanding what do you believe why do you believe it? What's the cost and what's the benefit of that belief? So we're doing, sort of an inner analysis. And the beautiful thing is once you see something, it's really hard to unsee it. And so that's where the change happens. That's where I call this choice point, and I drive people to choice point where they say, oh, wow, I can't behave like this anymore. And that's an accelerated process of breaking the pattern. So then you end up, living a life where you can come to any situation, any opportunity, any adversary, situation, and you learn how to build trust in yourself. So you can lean in, you can show up, instead of pulling back, and you build that discernment, okay, now's the time that I know how to do this. And you really need, you need some tools in those moments to be able to talk to yourself and talk to other people in a way that's coming from this real discernment of who you really are, without that inner conflict going on. There's a real alignment that's showing up, and that's when you start to become unstoppable.
A friend of mine once said to me, I was going through a really tricky time about 2015, and I was like, how did I not see this? How I've been absolutely blindsided by this situation. And his words to me were, you can only do what you can do with the tools you have at the time.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments of boom, light bulb moment. And then suddenly realized I haven't got the right tools to deal with this.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the right tools to deal with this. And then what do? If you're running a business and your business is failing, you get a business coach. If you're unfit and you want to really truly get fit, healthy, you hire a fitness coach. But what you shared with me over these 8 weeks is just this box of tools that I can use, but in so many different areas of my life. And how did you come about creating this system?
Well, the system was created through kind of two worlds. One was I had a very strong interest in personal development that led into kind of spiritual, what we might say, or transpersonal development. I really wanted to know how, what's going on in the world? How does this work? How's the whole, I was very curious, and I ended up down this path of working with a series of teachers. One of them was a Filipino mystic and healer that I apprenticed with for 5 years. And he was doing very, very open experiential work, but it had no theory. So you were just left on your own to try to figure out what was going on the inside. So I was so it's like an accelerated version of life. And his field was very strong, but very, very messy. And I said, I need some help. And one of my friends said to me, oh, you're speaking Tibetan, Tantra. And I said, great, where do I learn this Tibetan Tantra? And they said, no, it's like very exclusive. And it's, there's, except for one lineage called Dzogchen. And they work with the practitioner. You can go straight into accelerated practices depending where you are. So, I asked the universe, okay, universe, send me this Dzogchen teacher. And I ended up meeting one, and I told her my experience, and she was a Lama, and I ended up studying with her for 2 years every day in private teachings. I became her assistant, and so she taught me the theory behind, so I would have an experience, and then she would say, oh, you're having the experience of the and you need to watch out for this, and you need to pay attention to that. So it was this this process of the theory and the experiential, really working with your natural intelligence, and then making sense of it as it all comes together. And then, of course, I started working. I had my own experiences, and I started working hands-on with people. And so that was like putting both of those to the test. And I don't want people to suffer. I don't want them to be in pain. So, what's the fastest way we can get out of confusion, out of conflict, out of your blind spots, so that you can really live the life you want to live? That was the question I asked, and that became the InnerGuidance process that now also has a collaborative relating side when I work a lot with collaboration as well. And then I also coach people on spiritual, the spiritual experiences they're having, and helping them make sense with what I call awakenings gone sideways.
how to navigate that interesting journey that I think a lot of our audience have been through.
Absolutely, and that's something I'm going to talk about on our live event, because I know it's happening at an accelerated rate. I talk to a few spiritual teachers on the planet, and they say explosion of awakening is happening. 20 years ago, nobody wanted to talk about it, didn't care, just help me live a better life in the dream. Just make the better dream. But now people are waking up out of the dream, and that's a really big deal.
Yeah, and at super speed, and I think that's what's deeply uncomfortable. And actually, I had a conversation with Nikki Luna, who's the writer, producer, and director of Time of the Sixth Sun. It's her baby that I joined her 4 years ago to basically help to bring it to the masses. But we, and she wanted to bring that movie out in 2011 or 2012. And we always say, hindsight is a wonderful thing. It wasn't meant to happen then, because if it had happened, it would have come and gone. And I think now the fact that it was released in 2019, and then we've had approaching 1 million views now. This is the time when people are really needing to get that sense of security and that wisdom from the indigenous elders and the thought leaders and the speakers in the movie and in the docuseries. It's really giving people almost like a mast to hold on to in a very rough storm. And it feels like the people that have joined the community feel that too. The fact that, a lot of them felt like outliers. A lot of the comments we got from people was, I'm the only one in my village, or I'm the only one in my town, or I'm the only one in my city that feels like I feel and think like I think. And what I feel the movie and the whole project together has brought this amazing community together, that there are other like-minded souls out there that think like you think. But and so this weekend, when you and I are going to go live, I'm just going to explain how the timings are going to work, because often people get confused, because it is pretty confusing. So Amara and I are in East Asia. So we're going to be going live at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, which is about 18 minutes from now, equivalent if you're watching us live. But then these are all the other times that we will be going live at exactly the same time around the world. So, for example, if you are on Pacific coast of the US, that's 6:30 p.m. your time on Friday night. If you're Central Time or Eastern Time, that's 9:30 sort of New York on Friday night. And then here's all the other times. So we will be going live at exactly the same time. Now, I do appreciate that for anybody that's in Europe, who will probably be watching this on replay, because there at the moment it's about 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning, you won't probably be watching us live. You'll be watching this on a replay, but you will have access to the replay of the recording, the 2-hour event that Amara and I are going to do for 60 days afterwards. And if you would like to find out about more about this, you can see at this URL, timeofthesixsunlaunch.com/InnerGuidance. I write about my experience of the last 8 weeks on this amazing course with Amara. And I also, Amara shares her story on there as well. And there's full details of timings. And we're asking for an exchange of this of $18, which, as I said in the website, the participants on Amara's course paid $750 each to be there. So for you to be able to access, some of these tools for $18 is really, really good value for what you're going to get. Amara, I love on your website, it says that no one ever goes into deep inner searching and finds out I'm not enough. Right. In fact, we find the opposite. And no matter what has occurred in the past, when we meet ourselves openly and honestly, we discover something astonishing, empowering, and deeply humbling. That we are enough, good enough, great enough, and resourceful enough. And is that what you've discovered from working with those sort of over 2,000 clients over this period of time? That most people have this inbuilt self-sabotage, this inbuilt critic that actually we all have. And once you know that and embrace that, then that's the beginning of the working through it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just exactly as it says, and people are so afraid of what they're going to find if they kind of open the Pandora's box inside. But what they find is exactly the opposite. They find their resilience, they find their trust in their truth and their ability to, just open up and start to shine. And that can go all the way through the process of just living an integral life, a masterful life, all the way into spiritual transcendence. that those sources are already within you. They don't. It's not that they don't exist. It's that actually, I think we're kind of afraid of our greatness, so we have to make it safe to embrace it and see it and touch it. But once you've done that, you never want to go back. It's yeah.
It's just being brave enough to take that step forward. And often with hindsight, experiences happen to us, or things happen, and you in that moment of time, you have no clarification. You're like, why is this happening to me? Head in the hands moment. But then you often look back at those experiences a year or so later and go, thank goodness that happened, because by the universe giving me that test, or this unfortunate thing, or this horrible thing I had to deal with, it actually made me stronger, resilient, and more able to deal with what's coming next, or what this opportunity is. And it's quite amazing how it works. Often, universal chaos is just chaos that the human cannot understand.
Yeah, I've never found it, in all of my working, which can look very mystical and very magical, and it's all very logical. Everything makes sense in the universe and within us. I've found you can get a hold of that inner sense making, and there's just so much wealth of realization when you have the tools, as you say, to ask the right questions and really unlock yourself in that way. It's really an extraordinary process.
So talk to us a little bit about accessing your true yes and no, because obviously that's going to be a major part of what we're going to be sharing on Saturday or Friday, depending where you are in the world.
Yeah, in order to really get to this sense of integrity that you can really show up with and take it in any direction that you want in life, you have to understand what is a healthy yes for you, and what is we might call it a false or an overprotective or underprotected yes. And same with your no. This is your brakes, like gas and brakes in your life. You have to understand what is a real, true, absolute no for you, and where are you just overprotecting yourself with a no, or limiting your options with a no by trying to prove something to yourself that's really not in alignment with how you would want to be if you had the courage to be free. So courage comes a lot from understanding. We have misunderstandings inside of ourselves. So I'm going to guide you through a process where it's a guided process. I talk you through the whole thing, and you're going to be, all you have to do is just show up and be honest with yourself. And there's a sequence that I use to talk to yourself and the part of you that is your acceptor and your rejector. And you get to make peace with them and make some new deals with them, because you have a deal going on anyway right now. So we're gonna the deal is gonna come up, for renewal, and you're gonna be able to say, for some of you, it's gonna be a really big shift. It's gonna be, look, I love you, thank you so much, but I can't continue in this way anymore. You got to take a back seat. I have other things to do. I understand why you work for me, but you can't be driving the car, right? Like you need to step back and you get to take the reins again of who you really are and what you want to do. For other people, it's going to be more of a confirmation of what you already know, and you're good. We can accelerate now. You have confirmation, and you're just going to go from what I already knew and just kind of really take that much further and much faster. So there's a kind of acceleration that happens to looking in your life. You have to, where are you going to say no and where are you going to say yes? And then you build this trust so your curiosity can come back, and you can really kind of get into life without this torn experience. And you can use it on any area of your life. So some of you will be out there, the people I'll be working with, you'll be working with something in your personal life, something professional, some will be spiritual, and it applies to all those areas.
That is actually the key to it. It's the fact that it is so wide-reaching, and that's what I've really discovered. And when I wrote that beginning of the website, where I was talking about journeying with my inner critic and learning what I feared the most, and how it was stopping me making real impact on my life, and how it was actually keeping me in the mundane and stagnant. And we all, I would make a broad statement that we all have these programs running, and often we're not even aware of it. Unless you're really, unless you're completely enlightened, I would imagine that we've all got that little voice that goes, no. Sometimes, you're not good enough. You're doing this wrong, or you're a bad dad, or you're a bad husband, or whatever that horrible voice is telling you today. But actually, it's then having that tool to investigate that and to go, is this real or is this not real? Is this just my story that I'm telling myself? Should I interrupt this story? Have a little dialogue with the story, actually find out what's going on. And in the beginning, I'll be completely honest, I was quite resistant. In the first 2 sessions of what we did, I was probably a little bit resistant to it because you know why? And in fact, you said this brilliant line, and I think week 1 or 2, it was that if you're getting triggered by something, you're about to learn something. What was that line you used?
I use this all the time. If you're getting triggered, this is the time to lean in and realize, oh, I'm about to learn something about myself and others that I didn't know before. So, triggered is a sign that in triggered, there's a resistance, right? There's something that wants to move forward, and then there's something that wants to hold back, and you get this tension, and this tension, it shows up. And so, there's a choice to be made in that moment. You can either think triggered means I'm right and everybody needs to know that, and I'm going to now try and convince everybody of my rightness. And I like to say right is relative. You're always going to be right to some people and always wrong to others, and some of both. So defining absolute rightness is, there's a time and place for that. But if that's the only thing you're doing, you're fighting a losing battle. So, but then there's a way to be free. Do I want to be right or do I want to be free? Free to grow, free to understand more. So this trigger point means, ooh, I'm about to learn something about myself. And then if you just push through to the very next thing with honesty, that's where that aha moment happens. Wow, now I see what's happening. Oh, that's why I do that. Oh, that makes so much sense. And then all the shame or bad feeling or guilt or anger or whatever's built up, has a space to leave. And you can just go, oh, that's a protective mechanism I have. Thank goodness I had it, it did protect you for sure. But at some point the protection becomes the limitation. It's like baby shoes, if you keep your baby shoes on protecting your feet, but you never take them off, your feet are going to get really jacked up. At some point, it's going to get ugly, right? What? So you have to know when to take the protection layers off, when to change them for other tools, when to upgrade them. This is evolution. This is what I call conscious evolution.
Yeah. So many good things. Let's have a quick look at the other things that we're going to share at the weekend. So I'm going to pull this slide up. So we're talking about how to identify the limiting beliefs holding you back with the self-discovery journey. Now, you just mentioned that, so just explain a little bit more what that's going to, without giving it all away, but what that's going to entail.
Yeah. So on the journey, you're going to I'm going to invite you to talk to yourself, listen to yourself, and you're going to hear how you speak, and how you speak reveals what you believe. When we go really, really deep into these, these journeys, there's always more to do, but you're going to be able to take a peek behind the curtain and see, this is what I say to myself. This is coming from a belief that I have. Is this something I still want to hold or not? So, this is getting that hyper clarity on how you behave and what is the benefit of your behavior. What is the cost of that behavior? And there is a belief that's behind it. It's really easy to identify. I'm going to be talking about the common beliefs that we hold, and how they work for us and against us. And you'll be able to see, it's not rocket science. It's just of course, I was believing a negative protection belief that, it was designed to protect me by thinking that. Something you acquired along the way when you were at a much younger psyche is usually the case. And now you've grown up, and so that belief needs to be reevaluated. So that's what we do in the journey. Yeah.
And I guess it's also because I remember, do you remember I said to you when we did this in the workshop, I said to you, I go into complete overwhelm because I don't know what to think about. So if you say to me, right, think about an issue, and I'm thinking of so many things. I just didn't know how to get the clarity with it. And actually, you explained it beautifully on the day. And the moment we started it, I had that, oh, I know exactly what I need to work with. And it was so powerful that journey that we did. But the blessing of this, of course, is because it's recorded, and our beautiful community can have access for 60 days. You're going to be able to go back and do this again. So if you've got 2, 3, 4 different things you want to work on, you can work on them with Amara guiding you through each time while you've got access to the content. So that's going to be great. Then we're going to talk about the success and sabotage patterns that you've discovered by healing, teaching, and coaching over 2,000 clients, and the difference between waking up and spiritual awakening. Now, obviously, we don't want to give it all away here, but just give us a little bit of a...
Yeah, so in the sabotage patterns, and again, with the journey, we have to come back to understand ourselves in order to move forward in life. So you're going to be looking at that, your relationship to rejection is massive. If you ask an audience of people, what are they most afraid of? The number one answer they give is being rejected. But then we always talk about setting healthy boundaries. And so, we want to set healthy boundaries, but nobody wants to receive them, because then they feel rejected. So a lot of sabotage comes around your relationship to acceptance and rejection, and being able to see it as a positive thing that steers you in the right direction, steers other people in the right direction, and how to navigate those and just become, more aligned with that. So that's around the sabotage piece. And then, yeah, the spiritual awakening. There's a lot of talk right now about, and I'm sure your audience out there is very interested in this. There's a lot of talk about being awake, being woke, and my experience of a spiritual awakening. So we're definitely going to be talking about, what is the difference between a self that wakes up to a more conscious perception, and then waking up beyond a sense of self, and then what that does to an individual. Like, people used to ask my Lama, well, how do you function without an ego? And she would always say, oh, much better. How do you function without a belief system? Oh, much better. And I would have to say, I guess I would say I agree. So I'm happy to answer questions on, on our live event again. We'll be answering questions if anybody has had, and I'm sure, as we said, many have had experiences where they've had a taste of what in my lineage, what we would call a taste of emptiness, or a taste of unity. And then, once you've tasted it, it haunts you. Like that they go like, what was that moment? There's just like very liberating moment. And so I'll be talking about, I'll share my experience of going through that kind of gateway and what it did to me physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, energetically, spiritually, the impact that had on my life, and how to navigate. There's a teaching that I was given, that I was told that I could give to others. It really needs to come out now. And it's sort of a teaching that you don't really get unless you've done usually like 23 or 30 something years of study. But it's a very simple teaching about what's called the phoenix and the dragon, and things that you need to pay attention to, again, when this conflict of self starts to align into your greater truth. I really want to help people understand very simple principles so that you can go, oh, that's what's happening. Whenever I give this teaching, everybody says, that's what happened. Oh, that makes so much sense now. Okay. Now I can see more clearly. So it's really important for those who are interested in the kind of spiritual breakthrough side. I'd love to share them. And of course, I will be in the event that we have.
Sharing that at the event at the weekend. So, and we've talked about the secret healing and awakening tips that Amara's taught by her spiritual teachers. and also how to move past your limitations and gain instant focus and clarity before you start your day with an InnerGuidance 3-minute daily practice, which is just fantastic. And actually that alone, just to have that you can do before getting out of bed each day. I'm not going to share any more than that, but it's a really, really good exercise. So if you decide to join us, you're going to get live access. If you can join us live at those times that I spoke about earlier, and all the global timings are on the web page at timeofthesixsunlaunch.com/InnerGuidance. You're going to access to those live recordings for 60 days, which obviously for those that can't attend live and those that want to go back and listen again. And Amara will be breaking the content up into sections with interactive Q&A. So we'll be taking your audiences, and we're asking for an $18 exchange. As I said, participants on the 8-week course paid $750 each. So this is an absolute beautiful exchange, and it helps us and it helps Amara. And that's about 13 British pounds, 15 euros, 22 Canadian dollars, 24 Australian dollars, and 25 Kiwi dollars, because that's often what we get asked. And then, yeah, once again, the timings are on the website. But basically, if you're in the US, it's going to be on Friday evening. If you're in Europe and UK, it's going to be the middle of the night, so you're going to watch the recording. And if you're in Indonesia or Australia or New Zealand, it's going to be on Saturday morning. So super simple to understand. Is there anything else you would like to share before we close this out?
I guess just that I'm really looking forward to sitting in this space with these people. I really just so appreciate the like-mindedness of your community here, and yeah, I think it's going to be fun. I'm just going to invite everyone to get something cozy and a cup of tea, and come to it if you can with some pen and paper. There's some things you're going to want to write down. Or afterwards, you're going to want to journal or do some voice messages or notes to yourself. I always encourage people to take note of what you realized about yourself. And then, so it's just a great opportunity. And people ask me, yeah, but does it work? Does it work, Amara? And I say, well, the it is your potential. And so there is a potential for it to work. It depends on how much energy you give to it. And, my goal is that you understand the importance of your potential by the end of the call, and you have clarity around your potential, and so that you can turn that into an actual lived experience for you and the kind of life that you want to live this time around.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, look, here we go. You've got people like YC Town signed up. Cannot wait. Jenna says, thank you, guys. I'm looking forward to Friday. Miriam says, love you. Thank you. I recognize a lot of these names. They're beautiful community, Amara. I can't wait for you to work with them. And if you'd like to find out more, then just go to timeofthesixsunlaunch.com/InnerGuidance. And with that, I wish you a beautiful evening or a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much. And those of you that join us, we will see you on Saturday.
Thank you, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Okay.